Have you always had these opinions, or has your view of this evolved over time?
I've always been more conservative. Some things, I recently decided that women shouldn't vote.
You decided women shouldn't vote?
Yeah, that's a new opinion.
Why's that?
Okay.
I'll take
I like how she's like the biggest pick me ever, but she hasn't even been picked.
Why shouldn't women vote?
because we're chemically different every single day.
Right.
And like
This is false, by the way. They've done studies where they compared men and women over the course of several days. I think it was actually several months. And even some of the women in this study were on their periods, and they found that the men and the women had equal amounts of emotional fluctuation throughout the time period. So you're lying, Pearl. You are a liar. We now have somebody named JustPearlyThings. Now, I have talked about JustPearlyThings a couple times before, but more recently, she's been called the female Andrew Tate. This is because, well, she kind of is. She really doesn't like a lot of women, it seems. Very pick-me-ish. I do say so myself. Now, this is a recent interview she did about 9 days ago. Called Why I Interviewed Nick Fuentes. More dislikes than likes. That's strange. But anywho, not too long ago, Pearl Davis, JustPearlyThings, her real name, had a little interview with Nick Fuentes. And then after the backlash, well, she took down the interview with Nick Fuentes. So I think first we'll watch her little clip addressing the fact that she took that down, and then we will go over her interview and listen to her explain further.
I did remove the interview. I, again, did not think through a lot of the repercussions of posting that, so I just removed it. If you do want to see the full interview, Obsidian did react to it. That's on his channel. The intention was not, I guess, to hide it. It was just, this might not have been the best move. I'm just going to remove it now. So again, racism has no place in society, and I do take accountability for bringing him on. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Racism has no place here, guys. Please don't be racist, okay? Okay. Why so many dislikes? So yeah, this has been called a pretty awkward interview. It's 1 hour long, so I genuinely don't know how much of this we're going to watch, but let's get started.
Fellow YouTuber who started her show a year ago and is now on over 1 million subscribers, Pearl Davis, aka JustPearlyThings. Welcome to Trigonometry.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's awesome. Thanks so much for coming. It's great to have you on. As I just bigged you up, you've absolutely smashed it. Before we get into all of that, tell everybody, who are you? How are you where you are? What's been the journey through life that leads you to be sitting here talking to us?
So my name's Pearl. I'm a YouTuber. I'm from Chicago. I live in London. I do a YouTube show here.
That was quick.
Yeah.
How did you decide to start it? How did you have the idea? You could tell everybody what the show is because a lot of people wouldn't have seen it.
Oh, okay.
All that stuff.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
So we talk about a lot of men's issues. So I feel like most media today is catered towards women, pandering towards women. We don't do that on my channel.
You don't pander to women.
No, we're not about that. And
You pander to men.
not pander. Look, I say things that are true.
Okay.
I say things that are like basic to me, right?
Okay.
But
like what?
you shouldn't get super fat after you get married just because you got a ring. I mean, I feel like that's basic. Women in the 1950s knew that. But today, I'm a bully. I'm the meanest person ever. Blah blah. So yeah, that's what I do. Is we talk about relationships on my show. And so we bring in men and women talk about different like relationship topics, and then we go back and forth.
Yeah.
And then I also work a lot.
I actually don't even disagree with that necessarily. Like, yeah, if you get married and then you just kind of let yourself go and you become like a slob after being married, yeah, that's kind of lame. But that's like, this is the thing though, is like, why is all of this advice, even advice that's not necessarily bad, why is it only directed at women? Like, do you know it's way more common for guys to get married and then let themselves go, right? So like, why is this information just directed at women when this is actually applicable advice for everybody?
With the court system here. I'm doing a documentary on men getting custody of their kids.
Interesting.
Yeah. But one of the things you did with your show, and I don't know if you were one of the first ones, but it's definitely a format that's really skyrocketed. I can't open my Twitter now without, 8 people sitting around the table having some discussion. Often they don't know what they're talking about. But it's a format of bringing kind of random people together, partly random.
Very random.
Very random.
Very random, yeah.
And you also have famous people, and we'll talk about that as well. But did you come up with that? Was that something that you saw other people doing? Like,
no, I would say Fresh and Fit in Miami were probably the first ones to do that. So I went on their show. And what I liked about
And yeah, also, like, I see people saying that, like, I gained weight after having kids. Like, yeah, if you're gaining weight just naturally from, bearing children or something, then that's fine. My guess is if we're going to try and interpret this charitably, Pearl is just saying don't get married and then literally just let yourself go.
About London is it was one of the most like diverse places I've ever lived. So I just thought it'd be cool to bring everyone in a room and talk about something that we all have in common, which is relationships.
That's very interesting. And so, but why do you pick the subjects that you do? Why are you drawn to the subjects that you discuss? Because they are controversial, they can get you into hot water, etc.
I follow what interests me, and I just thought those subjects were interesting. It wasn't. A lot of people think it's like a lot more drawn out. Every week, I'm just like, oh, that's an interesting topic, and we go for it. I would say it's a mix of relationships. Sometimes we add in some conservative stuff, but it's like mostly about relationships.
And why does that interest you, Pearl? In particular, do you feel that relationships are in crisis now, or we don't value relationships, or we look at relationships
I
in the
just
wrong
think
way?
men aren't allowed to have standards in society, and that's just like the one thing I noticed. Like whenever men say that they want something in a relationship, like women always shame them for it. And I just thought it was so interesting how we never.
What? What is she talking about? You men out there, you're not allowed to have standards, okay? You want a girl with brown hair? Fuck you. Creep. What's wrong with blondies, huh? You're not allowed to have standards, man. You're just a fucking loser penis haver. Fuck you. Is this... Men have standards, dude. A lot of the times men have ridiculously high standards as far as appearance goes.
Point of view. So when I first started, I started like introducing my friends to like certain types of content. So I would be like, well, have you ever thought about this way? Or have you ever thought about that way? And I don't know, that's kind of how it started.
Right, so men are shamed for having standards. What do you mean by that? Let's just unpick that a little bit.
Okay, so what do we have? We have fat shaming. If a guy says, I want a girl in shape, oh, he's fat shaming. Oh, if a guy says, I don't want the time.
Why is she like strawmanning this? Is that what anybody says, really? I want somebody in shape? That's fat shaming? Is her only interaction with the oppositional view engaging with like dumb fuck Twitter lefties? Saying you want a girl in shape is not fat shaming. I genuinely, who says this? It sounds like you're just making up like the worst interpretation of some of these arguments just so that you can then respond and like debunk it, quote unquote. And this is a common tactic that conservatives and even these red pill types do a lot of the times, where they will create a fake argument and then debunk the fake argument, which makes them look good. Obviously, if somebody says you're fat shaming because you would prefer your partner be in shape, that's a pretty easy thing to debunk, okay? But who's really saying this? Where is this like the mainstream narrative? What are you talking about? It's way easier to just make up a fake argument and then debunk that rather than addressing the real argument.
Whore, you know, then he's slut shaming. You know, if he says, I don't want to, like, it's like anytime a guy demands something out of a
Yeah, if you say, I don't want a whore, yeah, that's kind of, it is actually slut shaming. What? Nowadays, you can't even say that these dumb sluts running around spreading their legs for every guy are just loser whores without being accused of slut shaming. Oh my God. The PC police. God. Can I just shame women for having sex? Please. That is actually slut shaming. Like, directly.
relationship. Guy says, I want a girl in shape. Oh, he's fat shaming. Oh, if a guy says, I don't want the town whore, you know, then he's slut shaming.
Town whore. Jesus Christ. You
know, if he says, I don't want to, like, it's like anytime a guy demands something out of a relationship or he's labeled as controlling. And I just got, oh my gosh, I got so tired in the past year. I got so tired. Because
if a guy has standards or preferences, that's totally fine. But if you're saying, I don't want the neighborhood whore, then yeah, you sound like a fucking creep.
Just feel like we would talk about like basic things and the men would say basic things that they wanted and like they would just continue to be shamed for it. And it's just like one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
So what are the basic things? And look.
And yeah, this is also another really big contradiction with the red pill people. This whole red pill I almost knocked my coffee over and I started crying. This is a really common dumb fuck argument that these manosphere losers make, which is if a man sleeps around and gets a ton of sex partners, he's a baller, dude. But if a woman sleeps around, aka has more than like 3 sex partners in her entire life, then she is the neighborhood whore. You'll notice also that Fresh and Fit, for example, will tell you, they've told men deliberately that you should try to hook up with as many girls as possible before settling down. How are you going to hook up with a bunch of girls if you also want those girls to not be the neighborhood whore and go back home in the kitchen? You can't have a bunch of perfect, God-fearing virgin women and then have men going and sleeping around. Because who are they sleeping with? It's so goddamn stupid, man.
A lot of people have said you use, let's put it, fruity language, as they would say in the 1950s in England, like the town whore.
Oh yeah,
You should have said the city hall.
The city hall.
Yeah.
But so, what do you mean by that?
I think we know what you mean by that. don't we?
Whore?
Yeah. No. But let's talk. What does that mean? Because
Sleeping. Okay, I met one girl.
It's always like personal experience with her. I love it. Well, I met somebody who once hooked up with like 5,000 guys. So yeah, like, okay, Pearl, we get it.
She told me this was off camera. She didn't tell me this on camera. Girl, because we had a pro-life show. Girls had 7 abortions.
Wow.
7. She's like 28. It's like madness. Like you can't tell me that's not madness.
Right.
And so we're just in this world where it's like girls are doing this crazy stuff.
See how she's doing this? This is so annoying and common with all these red pill cucks. Take their own personal experience and then just project it and extrapolate that on everybody. You met one girl who told you off camera she had 7 abortions, and then you follow that up with, just nowadays, women in society. I'm sorry, the girl who had 7 abortions is the spokesperson of women? What? When did she get elected?
Madness. Like you can't tell me that's not madness.
Right.
And so we're just in this world where it's like girls are doing this crazy stuff. And if anyone has anything to say about it, we're the bad guys. It's just like, don't put me in that group. Like,
Well, that makes a lot of sense because I think a lot of people, including a lot of women, would be like, you've had 7 abortions. I mean, even if you're pro-choice, you'd sort of not be on board with that, most people.
you would be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Well, you think a lot of people are on board with that?
Maybe not on board, but like legally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So here it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And do you think that these particular women don't take responsibility for their actions? Do you think it's society?
Why would, it's like we live in a world where women are bailed out of every single bad decision we make. If you want to sleep around, there's birth control. If birth control doesn't work, there's abortion.
So again, the typical women need to be held accountable for sleeping around for some reason. And the way in which you hold women accountable is by letting them get pregnant. What do you mean there's a way to bail out of every situation? Not everybody wants to get pregnant, and sometimes you want to have sex. You realize there's other parts, other benefits of having sex besides just reproduction, right? Again, I know that you have like a pregnancy kink or something, but for most average human beings, sex is a way for you to be closer to a partner, for you to kind of, heat things up romantically, etc., etc. It's not always about like making a baby. It's so weird. Like, bail women out of everything. Now they have birth control. What? So you think they should just have a baby as like punishment for sleeping around?
The girl does get pregnant and wants to keep it, she can put the dude on child support and not let him see the kids. Like what, a guy gets 6 days a month? Maybe if he's lucky. Girl does get pregnant and wants to keep it, she can put the dude on child support and not let him see the kids. Like what, a guy gets 6 days a month? Maybe if he's lucky. On top of that, if that doesn't go well, they can give it up for adoption. It's like women are always bailed out of every bad decision we make. I heard here they gave you free house.
Bailed out of every bad situation you make? First of all, if you have a baby and then you want child support, how is that bailing you out? It takes 2 to make a kid. Why should the guy... It sounds like you're defending the concept of the man getting out of everything. And then the mean, conniving woman wants child support from the father of the child. So this is apparently bailing women out, but you're saying this as if it's a bad thing for men to pay child support. So it sounds like you're okay with men getting bailed out or not even taking any responsibility.
It's a good point. But then surely isn't the system at fault rather than the individual, Pearl?
Why?
Both. I mean, I think the system's at fault for like allowing them to do that, but I mean, I think your life is your own fault.
Yeah.
So if you can't tell me a girl had 7 abortions, that's not her fault.
No.
Like, come on.
I agree. That's why
I don't understand this at all. Like, the system allows for what? Somebody to get an abortion? Or child support? I don't understand. Like, you realize that when we're talking about issues of like child support, for example, this is done in a way, at least here in America, where the child is the main priority. The state doesn't even give a shit about the mom or the dad. They really don't. They only care about what is the best circumstance here for the child. So if the best environment that can be provided for the child is the father pays child support and the mom has custody of the kid, they're going for it. Because it's not really about the woman or the man. It's about the child here.
Yeah.
Francis always likes to blame the system because he's an old school lefty. He thinks about the system.
No, I mean, I would say it's, okay, there's good people and bad people. But if you have a system that allows bad people to get away with the bad things that they do, then of course.
What bad things? 7 abortions is pretty extreme, sure. What are the, like, taking birth control? Is it the taking of the birth control that this evil system is allowing for?
It's at fault too. However, like your own life is your own fault. So I kind of see both sides when it comes to that.
Yeah. And are these your politics that inform your worldview? Do you have a political outlook on life?
I would say I'm like more conservative, but Like, no, it's just what I see in front of me, to be honest.
You're not that's the sense I
We
get from you. You're
know.
not ideological. You just go, that's stupid, that doesn't work, etc. Right? That's my take on it. That's my sense of you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were going to say something else there. No. How have you found the experience of like just bringing in, because you just literally, do you just grab people?
Yeah, that was also a very ignorant thing for her to say, your life is your own fault. Like, obviously, it's important to take personal responsibility and do the best you can to make your life as good as possible. But like, you can't just ignore external factors in the way that that interacts with people and can contribute to bad decisions being made by individuals.
No, like that's just natural. That's what men naturally want younger women.
Yeah.
So yeah, then they stopped coming on. But no, we recruit through Instagram mostly.
So you get a bunch of random people
Yes.
who want to come on the show
Yes.
to discuss these things.
Yes.
And you clearly, as you said, you were dunking on your own teammates too hard, so they've left, right?
Some of them came back. They did come back.
They did come back. And how does that go? Because we do, I mean, certainly from our perspective, live in a society where, as you say, people are very uncomfortable with certain things that we all know are true being said out loud in the public eye. How does that go when you get a bunch of random people and you start dropping your truth bombs?
Sometimes well, sometimes not well. I've had a lot of girls come back and say they changed their opinions after coming on my show, actually, that they see the world in a completely different way. But I would say the majority
Oh my
hate me.
God. These poor women.
Yes.
Not that come on the show, but like, I don't know.
But that's interesting. So you've had people who've changed their opinions. Can you give a couple of examples of that?
I had one friend that stopped being friends with me last year because I had a post about something that pissed her off. And she literally said she stopped being my friend, wouldn't talk to me, whatever. She came back 3 months later and said, you were right. And I was a crazy feminist. And I realized I was wrong.
And what was the post?
Modern women want to be victims.
Interesting. So let's explore that. Why do you think that, Pearl?
Modern women want to be victims. Oof, that's a weird take to say. That's just like, especially without context, sounds super fucking yikesy. Modern women want to be victims? Victimized how? Because this is sounding super victim blamey here.
Okay. But let's give some examples. Like, what do you mean by that? Is it
It's
in
like
a
whenever,
personal life?
okay. So when I started doing the show, girls would come forward and they would say like, I was abused, right?
Okay.
And my first response as like a person is I believe them, right? And I think, you have empathy, right? But then you find out that they didn't press any charges against the guy. So you're coming on a platform and you're saying, I was afraid to press charges, but you're not afraid to talk on my show. And this has happened multiple times. So
yes, because you realize when you go to press charges, there's a lot more that goes into that, right? You realize that, first of all, being raped, sexually abused, you realize that that's like probably the number one most traumatic experience somebody could experience in their life, or at least up there, okay? So that's the first thing. Second of all, you have to understand that by reporting it, you have to relive that situation. You have to relive that trauma over and over and over and over again. There was a really good show I watched on Netflix. It's called Unbelievable. I recommend anybody who wants to check it out, go watch it. And it depicted how it is for these rape victims. This girl was raped. She reported it. She had to retell the story to the first person that showed up. Then she had to be taken to the police station and tell the story again. Then to a doctor. Then you have to have a rape kit. So you've already been abused and now you have people messing around down there. It's uncomfortable. It's a traumatic experience. It's tough to do. I agree that if you are sexually abused, the right thing to do is to report it. I know that it's uncomfortable, but I still think that like if you're abused, you should report it because you don't want that person out there to hurt somebody else. So like there's a degree there. I obviously, yes, if you're raped or abused, you should try to press charges even if that is uncomfortable. But to say if they don't press charges, that means they wanted to be victims? They obviously didn't want to be raped. Getting up on somebody's podcast and being like, yeah, I was abused when I was younger, it was really scary, is a hell of a different than sitting down with police needing to recount every excruciating detail. Not to mention you have to undergo a lot of other questioning and prodding and physical exam, depending on when exactly this assault took place. There's so much more here. This is such a brain dead take. Holy shit.
And you're saying, I was afraid to press charges, but you're not afraid to talk on my show. And this has happened multiple times. So people know who her ex is that watch the show. So she's publicly defaming this man's character with no proof or evidence. And so I just think a lot of times like, or they wouldn't talk about how, I would ask the question, he hit you, okay, did you hit him first? And more often than not, they would hit first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they didn't talk about that. They would talk, so that's what I meant as I was talking about how like women will play the victims when they started it. Like you can't hit a guy and not expect to get hit back.
That's interesting. Why do you say that?
I mean, maybe just don't hit people. Like two wrongs don't make a right. It's true, though, that if you're going to go and try and attack somebody, that you need to be prepared for them to fight back. I don't think that that's necessarily incorrect. It's just a weird way of phrasing it. Are we going to just drop the part before about how women apparently want to be victimized when they're raped? Like, what are you talking about?
Because, look, so from my own background, I was raised, whatever happens, whatever you do, you never lay hands on a woman. You just never do that. Whatever happens, you absolutely never do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they tell men that because
myself.
I think that you should never try your best to never lay hands on anybody.
they cater to women.
Never do that. Whatever happens, you absolutely never do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they tell men that because they cater to women. If you hit someone, expect to get hit back.
Well, hold on, mate.
Like,
So,
why is she exempt from any responsibility? Like, okay, if you go up to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and you punch him in the face, is anyone gonna feel bad when you get hit back?
No.
And he knocks your brains out? Like, why do we have that? Men don't have a cop out for that. But if a woman hits a man who's stronger than him, there's always a cop out. Then she's the victim. Oh, never hit a, no offense, but never hit a woman. Blah blah blah. It's like, no, you hit it first. Get out of here. And now we're having cases where men are dying from women, like in Florida, where that OnlyFans model. Did you guys hear about that?
No.
There's an OnlyFans model.
And yeah, this whole don't lay hands on a woman, you're right. That sounds like you're saying, well, it's okay to lay hands on a man. You can go beat the fuck out of your bros, okay? Don't lay hands on a woman. Just don't hit people. We have evolved to the point where we can solve most major disagreements via rhetoric, conversation, agreements, compromise, etc. We usually don't have to go full caveman, return to monk, and start punching people when we get mad at them. That's not really a necessary thing. So it's not just don't lay hands on a woman. Just don't hit people, okay? Like, am I educating my 2-year-old here, or am I talking to fucking full-grown adults here? Don't hit people. Don't do it. It's bad.
Florida, where that OnlyFans model. Did you guys hear about that?
No.
There was an OnlyFans model who killed her boyfriend, and like at first they thought it was like a mutually abusive relationship. Now CCTV footage, I don't know if it's called the same thing there, but elevator footage has come out, and like it's of her like literally beating the shit out of him, and like what, she doesn't deserve to get hit.
I mean,
Equal rights, equal lefts, baby.
Well, if somebody's attacking you and you need to fight back in self-defense, then yeah, I don't care if it's a woman or a man attacking you. You need to fucking fight back. If it's like a life or death situation, kind of, you have tried to de-escalate the situation and they keep attacking you. I mean, there's going to be a time and a place for that, but what was the point she's trying to make here?
I guess the counter argument to that is if a woman hits me, it's not going to do, with the vast majority of cases, that much damage. Now, we had Veronica Hardy in the studio with her husband Dan.
This is a dumb fuck way of reasoning, by the way. It's not about the damage done. It's just about the taking of the risk even initially. Just don't do it.
A UFC fighter, and Veronica would destroy me in a matter of seconds. But the reality is, I can hit harder than the vast majority of women and cause more damage.
Yeah, so then it's on the women to not hit the men. Why would you hit someone stronger than you?
this is what I was gonna ask you.
And this is what I mean. Like, when we look at society, there's always like a bailout. So even right there, like, you did it. And I think
Wait,
there's a lot
where's the bailout? The OnlyFans model you just talked about, is she not facing your life in prison? Courtney Clenny, who goes by Courtney Taylor on Instagram and OnlyFans, was arrested in Hawaii and charged with murder in August for stabbing her boyfriend. She's going through the legal process. Where's the woman getting bailed out here? Somebody help.
not hit the men. Why would you hit someone stronger than you?
This is what I was gonna ask you.
And this is what I mean. Like, when we look at society, there's always like a bailout. So even right there, like, you did it. And I think there's a lot of like little things that we don't notice in societies where it's like, never hit a woman. Why? Why does she
It's
get?
not a
why
bad
does
thing
she-
to teach you. However, there are exceptions. So this is what I was going to ask you. Imagine you're walking down the street with your girlfriend, and a woman runs over and starts beating up your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Never hit a woman?
Yeah. So to me, I would physically restrain her, and I would.
What if she started beating you up?
What if she had a
You
knife?
couldn't restrain her.
What happens if she had a knife?
Or a stick, or a fucking...
Okay, right. Okay, then in that case, yes.
But my whole point in this is like, see right there, that's a bailout. The woman made a bad decision, and we put it on the men to bail them out.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, if we're making it a strength argument, right? We're talking about strength. You hitting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he can't hit you back then.
Yeah.
But see, it's a gender thing. It's like women are always seen as the victim, even if they started it. And that was my point, like, with that
Don't
post.
you talk about how women are on average weaker than men? You just said don't hit somebody stronger than you. How is this victimizing women? This is recognizing that women on average are not as strong as men.
You couldn't restrain her.
What happens if she had a knife?
Or a stick, or a fucking...
Okay, right. Okay, then in that case, yes.
But my whole point in this is like, see right there, that's a bailout. The woman made a bad decision, and we put it on the men to bail them out.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
it's like,
what was the bad decision she made? The example was somebody starts attacking your own girlfriend. Wait, how is this the women's fault again? Also, I thought it was like the strong masculine men who need to protect their women.
again, if we're making it a strength argument, right? We're talking about strength. You hitting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he can't hit you back then.
Yeah.
But see, it's a gender thing. It's like women are always seen as the victim, even if they started it. And that was my point, like, with that post, is like, these women will play the victim on my show. And this has happened so many times where a girl will come forward, I was abused, this happened. Then I start asking questions. And this is the thing, like, in society, they act like we can't ask any questions. When a woman says abuse, I don't say the R word on my grape, whatever. But then you say, did you press charges? No. Well, why are you publicly defaming a man's character? Because people know who you dated. So
we've had a bunch of feminists on the show, and I can hear their voices in my head right now.
yeah.
And here's what they would say. They would say, look, if you look at the statistics, a woman is much more likely to be killed or raped or whatever by her own partner. So the biggest threat to a woman is the man that she's living with, right? Women are way more likely to be...
Men are more likely to be victims of a violent crime.
Yeah.
Who cares who's the perpetrator?
Yeah.
If men are more likely to be victims of, because then they'll always say, oh, well, I can't walk home alone at night. I got attacked by a whale because of that statement. Yeah, I just think, who cares who does it?
Do you not think, though, that if we live in a society...
You just said don't hit somebody if they're stronger than you. You care who does it. You care who started it. You were just shitting on women who started it. Also, men are at higher risk of violent crime. Yeah, that's because men are involved in more violent crime in general as well. Like, yes, this is to be expected. However, the risk of rape, you know, it's way, 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 way higher for women, right? We're not talking just about like violence in general here. We're talking specifically about rape.
Yeah, I just think, who cares who does it?
Do you not think, though, that if we live in a society where we have what biologists call sexual dimorphism, men are different to women physically, right? Men are bigger, stronger, etc. Because women are physically, on average, less able to protect themselves, we should have some sort of extra care. I'm not saying, you know, never hit a woman, because I can envisage a situation where in self-defense or whatever, that may happen. But we have to teach men to be extra careful with the strength that they have, particularly when they're dealing with women.
I think we should teach the women not to hit someone stronger than them. Like, I don't understand. Why do we put it on the men? Put it on the women. Don't hit, like, you should teach the women, don't hit anyone if you don't expect to get hit back.
I agree with that.
And I don't think everyone should be able to press charges on a guy. If she hit first, she started it.
Yeah, but what about if she hit first and then it escalated and as a result of that, she was severely beaten? That surely should be able to press charges because the level of violence is disproportionate to the situation.
Thank you.
Hit Dwayne The Rock Johnson first and then he beat the shit out of you.
Well, it depends. If you give him brain damage, I think...
Wait, if you go up to somebody and you like slap them across the face, right? And you're like, listen to me when I'm talking, slap. And then they turn around and whip out a knife and like cut you up on the verge of death and leave you bloody and beaten. Like, yeah, the response there is far disproportionate. Would you really tell me you would just walk in, you would enter the chat and be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have slapped this guy because he could be stronger than you. Tee-hee. Like, yeah, it's true. Don't hit people, don't slap people, but like also don't respond to getting slapped in the face by knifing somebody nearly to death. Like, how is this so complicated for these dipshits?
Probably could press charges.
Yeah, absolutely, because it'd be grievous bodily harm. Because the whole, it's, at least in English law, and there'll be somebody who corrects me on this, it's self-defense, Pearl. It's self-defense. If you attack me, I'm allowed to defend myself, but then it comes a point where I'm no longer defending myself and I become the aggressor.
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just genuinely believe that you should not hit someone and not expect to get hit back. That's my opinion.
I mean, there's a logic to that.
I just don't think you can really play the victim if you hit first. Like, you hit first.
It depends what the response to you hitting that person is. Like,
and it's one thing if it's like, what? Go ahead.
You shouldn't hit people, right?
Yeah, but it's just interesting how in society it's like, see, you kind of like, not just you, it's like very common. We always like take the responsibility off of the women and like put it on the men somehow.
Yeah.
it's that since men on average are stronger, that even if the woman hits the man first, if he turns around and beats the shit out of that woman and has her on the verge of death, like there's a problem there still. True, you shouldn't have hit the guy. True, don't slap people, okay? But that doesn't mean that if you get slapped, that's just now like freedom for you to just go ape shit.
I think, you know what, while I think the way that you're talking is quite blunt about it, there is some truth to what you're saying, and more broadly, there's other areas where I think that probably applies as well, right?
Yeah.
Just beyond the physical stuff. What, like, can you give us some other examples of what you're talking about? Things that you talk to people on the show about?
Like, one thing is that men shouldn't sleep with so many women.
He also noted
and
that
they'll say
I
like
am
men are
an
responsible
ape
for
and I
all the
should go F
whores, you know.
myself.
But I really think it's on the whores for being whores. No, I'm serious. It's like, well, they'll be like, well, if the men weren't sleeping around, but it's like, okay, what percent of men can sleep around?
Right.
1 out of 3 men are sexless. So by this logic, like, it's more on the women than the men. But it's like then they put it on the small percentage of men that are sleeping around. Does that make
Well, no, it's also on the whole red pill community that encourages men to sleep around. Like, it's not just the proportion of men sleeping around compared to the proportion of women sleeping around. It's the fact that you in your manosphere space have consistently, or I don't know if Pearl herself has ever said this, but I know that like Fresh and it has, encouraged guys to sleep around.
make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense.
I don't know if you've heard that argument or not.
I haven't actually, no.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone
And yeah,
blame-
also, how come when men do it, they're not whores? How come when men do it, it's, oh, but they're just a small proportion, you see? But then when women do it, it's like, oh, you neighborhood whore. Not even Christ himself would wash your feet, you sick freak.
the men for the fact that women are doing a lot of sleeping around. That's
Really?
weird.
I hear it all the time. They
Really?
always say like women like but the men are sleeping around when we talk about like women being whores. Yeah. Yeah. It's like but the men slept with her too. But I think it's 100% the woman's fault if you get pregnant. Yeah.
It's interesting why.
100%. Because we have 41 forms of birth control. And
What if birth control fails?
Condoms.
What if someone? I know someone who
Abortion.
was using condoms and birth control.
Abortion.
Okay.
You just shat upon abortion. Holy shit. Oh my God. So wait, women get a bailout for everything they do. Everything women do, they just get a bailout, okay? If they have sex and get pregnant, they just go get an abortion. It's just a bailout. And then also simultaneously, it's only women's fault if they get pregnant because they could have gotten an abortion? What are you talking about? How do you contradict yourself within like 5 minutes?
But you're saying pregnant.
Adoption. I mean, I don't believe in abortion, but it's legal. So then you have 100% control over who's born.
I don't even agree with this, you know? But I mean, hey, you could have done it, so it's your fault. Like, oh my God, dude, you're so dumb.
But you're saying pregnant.
Adoption. I mean, I don't believe in abortion, but it's legal. So then you have 100% control over who's born as a woman. So adoption.
But
It takes two to make a child. So here's the question. Let's say a woman is like you, Pearl, morally against abortion, okay? She has sex with somebody. The guy claims he's using a condom. She's taking the pill, but he lied and didn't actually put on a condom. And so somehow, even though she was on the pill, she ended up getting pregnant. Is that still 100% her fault for getting pregnant? Or is it fault for having the literal child after 9 months of carrying it?
So then you have 100% control over who's born as a woman. So adoption.
But if you
Child
have sex,
support.
there's always a risk of pregnancy. You know, so is that really fair to say? That
Yes.
But I guess
because the man only has one choice. I guess you could do two vasectomies: condom, no condom.
Yeah.
Right. Where the woman has like 20 choices: abortion, no abortion; Plan B or no Plan B; 41 forms of birth control or no 41 forms of birth control. What else is there? Adoption, no adoption; child support, no child support; letting him have access to his kids, not letting him have access to his kids. The women have all the choice. So it's like, if we have all the choice, why don't we have all the
You know, if she has a child, the guy can take it to court and fight to see his kids as well, just so you know.
responsibility?
because there's two people involved in the creation of a child.
Right, but there's 6 choices for the woman and 1 for the man. And the other thing, like, the woman can lie where the man can't. The woman can say she's on birth control, say she took the Plan B, say she has an IUD, and the man could be sleeping with someone and not even know that, where the woman knows if he's wearing a condom or not wearing a condom. So there's only
No,
one.
not always. What are you talking about? There was just discourse not too long ago about stealthing, the act of taking a condom off in the middle of sex without your partner realizing it. Like, even on the show just now, they're like, wow, you're very blunt. She's blunt because she's fucking stupid. It's easy to be blunt and wrong. If I'm just like, yeah, dude, did you know women suck? What? I'm just giving you the blunt truth, man. Yeah. No, you're just wrong.
One situation, like the woman is the only one that's in a situation where she can fully consent to everything, assuming there's no rape, whatever, because she knows all the details where the man doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, also there's several instances of a man removing a condom during sex, a woman not noticing, and a man ejaculating in a woman.
I don't
Yes.
believe that.
Wait, did she say she
I feel
doesn't
like-
believe that?
I don't believe that. I feel like that's like a cop out, to be
Do you think?
honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like
So her personal experience applies to all women. This guy giving an example, not even a personal experience, just giving an example of something that does happen, she just doesn't believe it. Okay, well, maybe I don't believe your story, Pearl. Why should I believe you that some random schmuck told you she got 7 abortions behind the scenes that wasn't even on your show? Why should I believe you? One study found that 12% of women have experienced a partner stealthing during sexual activity. 12%! This isn't a cop-out. This is something that happens. Confronted with just something that completely contradicts what she just said, I don't believe you.
I feel like that's like a cop out, to be
Do you think?
honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like the girls just say that. I don't really believe it. You didn't notice? Okay.
So what I'm curious about is what happens when you say
You
all
just didn't. Yeah, some people don't notice. I don't even know what to say, dude. I don't even know how to respond to this. She's just like, no, that's fake because it contradicts my fifis.
this to a bunch of random people that you've brought in off the street?
They're like super understanding.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see
No,
that.
they're
Says
like super-
Americans don't get irony.
I got whale attacked for one of these opinions because this girl, I was doing street interviews, and this girl was like, I can't walk home alone at life. My life is so hard. And I was just like, she was a whale, you know what I mean? And I only say
You mean
this-
she was overweight?
very fat, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what
Oh wait, also can we just also point out the fact that she was complaining that people would say accuse people of fat shaming, and now she's referring to overweight women as whales. Damn, people saying all this stuff is fat shaming. Anyway, I passed this really fat bitch. I call her a whale. Like, you're fat shaming, dude.
it's so hard. And I was just like, she was a whale, you know what I mean? And I only say
You mean
this-
she was overweight?
very fat, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what she did was she was like, and I was like, well, why don't you just not live in a big city? Why don't you just live somewhere safer? Why don't you just not walk home alone at night in a big city? Men are more likely to be victims of a violent crime. And then she's like,
Why don't you just move, bro? Why don't you just leave your family, your friends, where you have your job, where you currently live? Could you imagine if we had this mindset for every crime? Like, oh, you didn't want to get murdered in a big city walking home? Well, maybe you should just not live in a city, you know? Oh, you didn't want to get in a car crash? Maybe if you had been riding a bike instead, you wouldn't have gotten hit by the car and died. I don't even know what to say. This is such a brain dead take. What if your job is in that city? What if you currently live with friends or family in that city? What if you're walking home at night because your shift got out late, and so now you need to walk home at night?
Like, well, and then she attacks me. She tries to, she's like, I'll have you, you slag. I didn't know what a slag meant. Okay, I didn't even know what a slag was, but she was like, I'll have you, you slag. I'll have you. And I was like, have me? Like, what? And so then she like knocks the mic out of my hand. My friend had to like pull her away. And then I got it taken off of my YouTube for privacy. Bitch, you attacked me. And she wouldn't leave my, yeah, sorry. So yeah, they're really understanding. Yeah.
That's so. I'm kind of lost for words a little bit because.
Yeah, she was like super nice. I love Britain.
Yeah. You see some of those girls up and down high streets on a Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the girl. Like some girls, I've had girls say they've changed their entire opinion.
Yeah.
I've had some girls say they never thought of it that way.
Have you always had these opinions, or has your view of this evolved over time?
I've always been more conservative. Some things, I recently decided that women shouldn't vote.
You decided women shouldn't vote.
Yeah, that's a new opinion.
Why's that?
Okay.
I'll take.
I like how she's like the biggest pick me ever, but she hasn't even been picked. Why do we have these dumb bitches who always get up here and they're like, women shouldn't vote? Okay, then shut the fuck up, Pearl. Go get married, get pregnant, go back to the kitchen. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here. Leave. Okay? Like, what? Don't get up here preaching about how women shouldn't vote. Why are you here then? Leave.
One for the team. Yeah.
Okay. Why shouldn't women vote?
Because we're chemically different every single day.
Right.
Yeah, and like
This is false, by the way. They've done studies where they compared men and women over the course of several days. I think it was actually several months. And even some of the women in this study were on their periods, and they found that the men and the women had equal amounts of emotional fluctuation throughout the time period. So you're lying, Pearl. You are a liar. And let me guess. Well, I have a personal experience where somebody said that they have a lot of changing emotions, so that's just how women are. You're just wrong. You're just a dipshit who's wrong. Go back to the kitchen.
okay, we make 70
hold on.
because we're chemically different every
Finally, somebody I can be sexist to. Yes.
single day.
Right.
Yeah, and like okay, we make 70.
Hold on.
okay.
Does that mean you shouldn't be on YouTube then? Because you're chemically different. Your opinions could be bullshit. Because
They could be, yeah. Should I be banned off of YouTube? What
That's
does
fine.
that have to do with voting? It's like a false equivalency.
Okay.
So to me, it's like, okay, I feel like if shit goes,
Voting gives you a say in what happens in the country. So for you to say women shouldn't vote because they're chemically different, you getting up here on your show is also influencing certain changes or opinions among society. Maybe it's not as significant as voting, sure. However, you have influence. You're saying that it's okay to have influence on a YouTube channel, but you shouldn't have influence over what happens in the country in which you live. You're not even in favor of democracy at this point, Pearl. Just come out and say that you're a fucking fascist who hates women. Just be blunt, okay? Where's the bluntness?
south, who's going to war? Okay, you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Man,
let me
yeah.
let me start
And
from the
listeners.
beginning. Let me start. Actually, I want to start from
Mate,
how
you
I
don't
got.
want to be jumping on this fucking train. believe me.
I want to start with how I got this opinion.
Okay.
I
cool,
want to
let's
start.
do
Let me okay, because I heard from a guy named Rollo Tomasi, genius, right? Very
Yeah.
smart.
He's a pickup artist.
Oh my god. For those of you who don't know, Rollo Tomasi is the rational male guy who tried to call me out, and then when I tried to debate him, he just never responded. This guy's apparently a huge genius, by the way. Remember, Rollo Tomasi literally invoked the genetic fallacy to say that toxic masculinity isn't real because originally it was supposedly a term invented to demonize men or something, but then when we looked it up, it actually came out of a pro-men's right movement. That's where toxic masculinity, the term, came from, but even if it didn't, it doesn't actually matter. Like, we went over his video and he was so dumb.
I heard from a guy named Rollo Tomasi, genius, right? Very smart.
He's a pickup artist, isn't he?
No.
Is he not?
No.
I don't know anything about that world.
No.
What is he?
So, no, he a lot of the stuff in the space of YouTube, I mean, like he's just like one of the thought leaders, I would say.
Okay.
But he's not a pickup artist.
No.
Okay.
Is he the Italian comedian who's in his 70s and talks about? No, he's not.
No, he's not.
No.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. We keep interrupting you.
Because I feel like when I say this, it sounds crazy.
It does a little bit.
Yeah, and when I
But quite a
first
lot,
heard it,
actually.
I thought it was crazy. Okay.
Okay.
But what I heard was that women didn't want to vote. So when I was like,
What do you mean women didn't want to vote?
Like the first
They
wave,
threw themselves under fucking carriages to vote.
some did,
Yeah.
right? But was that women at large?
I don't
No, it
Okay.
wasn't. The majority of women back then. We always talk about the suffragettes, but there was also the anti.
I don't care. It actually doesn't matter whether or not you wanted that. You have certain rights in this country. We live in a democratic republic, which means you get to vote for your representatives. That's what that means, okay? I don't care if you didn't want that vote. I don't even give a shit. I don't care if 99% of women didn't want to vote. The way that a democratic republic works, where we value equality and giving everybody the ability to sway or vote in their own favor, I should say. I don't care if you wanted that right or not. This is like saying, well, did you know the majority of black people actually liked being slaves? Herder? Like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Because there are certain American principles that apply regardless of what you want. There were also a lot of people that didn't want women to vote, but I don't give a shit what they wanted either. Last but not least, even if at the time women didn't want that right, women want that right now. Now they want the right to vote. Like, this is such a dumb thing to say.
About women at large.
I don't know.
No, it wasn't. The majority of women back then, we always talk about the suffragettes, but there was also the anti-suffragettes.
Yes.
And that was the majority of women, when asked if they wanted to vote, said no. In the US, I don't know what it was like here.
Okay.
You know,
So what?
And I was like, why did women not want to vote now? So I read some of their writings.
Some of their reasons for not wanting to vote were just literally just sexist, okay? Women stand much to lose by suffrage because suffrage demands equal rights where men only vote. Women enjoy much superior rights and privileges. A strong nation can be built only on strong homes. The philosophy of women's suffrage is a blow at the home. Dude, the same arguments are still made today. Here we go. Some believed voting would distract women from their far more important roles as mothers and wives and ruin happiness in the homes. Women are supposed to be moms at home, so they shouldn't vote. This is just like mad cope.
From back then, okay? And they basically said this is the beginning of the breakdown of the family. Because back then, when you got married, you became one, and you trusted your husband to make that decision, okay? Now, that
You can still be one family unit without just like deterring to the man to be your guiding leader.
was one argument. I was like, okay, well, but society's a little different today. Argument number 2. Back then, they had to be drafted. So any woman that wanted to vote had to go to war, because you're voting in the US anyway for your commander-in-chief. Because if they go to war, who's gonna have to deal with the consequence? And that's where we're at, is because if shit goes south and we go to war, the men are
The left-wing parties are more peaceful, but
Yeah. So you think, and so you genuinely believe that women shouldn't be allowed to vote?
well, okay. I'm gonna caveat this.
Okay.
I don't think it's likely this will ever happen.
yeah,
I'm
we can
never
agree on
really
that.
gonna campaign for this to happen. Like, how could nowadays? However, I think the outcomes would be better.
Okay.
And now this goes back into the documentary that I'm making. So I'm making a documentary on the court system here. in
How
the
would
UK. I wish
things be better if women couldn't vote? Please.
I brought my notebook because I have it all laid out in my. I should have brought my notebook. I didn't. But the issue in the UK is that men only get custody of their kids 10% of the time. Would you agree that's crazy?
Yes.
Would you agree if your kid, you should get 50-50 custody?
It depends.
Off the bat.
It depends.
Off
Well,
the
I
bat.
actually don't agree with
Okay,
that.
go ahead.
And I'll tell you why I don't agree with it. And this will make me very problematic because I'm suggesting that men and women are different. But as someone who has a young child, they're way better off with their mother on average.
Under the age of 8. Over the age of 8, the kids have better outcomes with the father. Single father homes have significantly better outcomes than single.
Under the
father.
age of 8, though, they need their mother.
True.
But it's all case specific because if
It doesn't matter if it's single fathers or single mothers. It's the fact that 2 parents are the best environment for a child. So just if there's a worse environment for a kid being under a single mom than a single father, you'd have to understand why. Why is that? What's the point? Why?
if the mother's a psycho, then no. And if the father is abusive, then no, right?
Or has addiction issues, or
Yeah.
whatever else.
I personally think that it's 50-50. It's 50% his DNA. He should, off the bat, be entitled to 50-50 custody. Now, they could talk about it based on his work schedule and then switch it, but off the bat, 50-50 custody. Would you agree that 10% of the time, men getting access to their children being custody hold, like that's insane?
There's a lot of problems with the way that divorce is.
But yet you simultaneously are reinforcing this idea that women are like the weak flowers and that they shouldn't even vote and that it's better for them to just defer to the man. You realize that when you reinforce this idea that women are just naturally better caretakers or caregivers, women are just naturally designed by God Almighty to care for the children, that women are probably going to get custody more often if there's this prevailing stereotype that women are just naturally better caregivers? Why are you saying these things, but yet you are part of the manosphere crowd? You are part of the group that consistently reinforces dipshit ideas of masculinity. That to be a man, you need to be the breadwinner, you need to be working, you need to be aggressive, you need to be stoic. Why do you support all of this shit when those expectations of men are also contributing to men not getting custody nearly as frequently as they deserve? Like, you're doing this, Pearl. You're making this happen right now. For once, it is actually women's fault. Sorry, not women, just one woman. It's her fault.
We lived in a society in which, because men were the ones that had the vote, and by the way, actually men mostly didn't have the vote for quite a long time as well. It was just rich men. But
I would be okay with that too.
yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
But
It's like, if it's a shitbag opinion, she's just fine with it. She'd be okay with that too. You want the rich only controlling the country and having the right to vote? What? I don't know if I can actually keep watching this much longer. Like, this is delusion. We are watching a schizophrenic break from reality occur right here on camera. So you want just rich people to control the country then? Shut up, peasant. What's next? Do you want to just bring back serfs? Like, what is your problem, you imbecile? And yeah, you're right. Her dad is also a millionaire who pays for all of her shit. She grew up in a mansion, allegedly, and her dad still pays for her right now. Like, she's coming from the place of insane privilege to say this dumb shit.
Like, what are you going to say in something you're not paying into? Men pay into it way more than women do.
I mean, women now earn more, particularly young women, than young men.
Yeah, but on average across society, men pay way more tax, particularly over the course of a lifetime. Partly it's because women take time to have children. And
wait,
I mean,
men pay more taxes, men tend to earn more because they're working more frequently. Can you go back to the kitchen now, Pearl, please?
that's also another argument there. Like, you can't just measure your contribution to society by the amount of tax you pay. Bringing up the next generation is a hugely valuable thing that women do. They're not paid for it necessarily, right?
But shouldn't those women do that with their husbands?
How do you mean?
Like, why do we want to be in, like, you should have the same opinions. You should be voting for the same person as your husband.
Why?
Why?
He's got a lefty girlfriend who annoys everyone. Well,
She does annoy everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and she's.
I just think it's better for the family unit if everyone's on the same page. Like, I don't know. You want to be in a house where you're arguing about politics?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want someone.
Yes. Literally, yes. I like how everybody who's confident and has a backbone is like, yeah. You realize that me and my wife debate politics all the time, right? Like, maybe, Pearl, if you actually had a partner that disagreed with you and challenged you, then maybe you would grow a brain cell or two. Yeah, me and my wife debate politics all the time. You want to be in a long-term committed relationship with somebody that's actually going to challenge your ideas and encourage you ultimately to become better.
with my wife, by the way.
No.
Arguing about politics?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want someone who thinks differently to me.
That's what we do. We argue about politics all the time. Not with my wife, by the way,
No.
but with Frances,
Yeah,
who's my
we-
work wife.
Yeah.
We think.
I mean, that's fine. I just think, like, I just prefer more traditional relationships. So I just prefer relationships where you're submitting to your husband's authority.
Okay, but
Mhm.
So the man has the authority, the woman submits to the authority because she's better with the kids, etc., etc. But yet now you're also complaining that men don't get custody as often. Let's keep that in mind.
that's great.
like, yeah.
You know, sign me up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
What do you mean submit to the husband? That always sounds really, really creepy too. Submit how? Submit in what way? No, honey, I'm really not in the mood to have sex right now. Submit to your God-ordained husband or else.
there are lots of women who don't want that. Shouldn't they be allowed to do that?
Yeah, they can. I mean, I can't take away the vote. It's here. But I actually
So
would
you-
be okay with, you know what, I've thought about this too, because, you know, I'm like, are women really not going to be able to vote? I feel like the outcomes, my opinion, to be more precise, it's probably that the outcomes would be better if women didn't vote. I'll take one for the team. However,
Will you take one for the team and not vote? Please.
I would be okay with the taxpayer thing, but, you know, where it's like only, I think it's like only net taxpayers can vote.
Well, that in this country would mean half the country doesn't vote.
Yeah.
Which I'm down.
I just feel like, okay, because if you're voting, okay, if I'm getting free stuff from the government, why would I ever against that? Why would I? So then you're just going to get more free stuff and more free stuff.
What do you mean? Why would you? What free stuff are women getting? What is she even talking about? Is she talking about the policies back in the 60s that aimed to help single mothers but had unintended consequences when it came to incentivizing single mothers rather than having a man in the household? Is that what she's talking about? Because, like, there are unintended consequences that occur sometimes from policies. Yeah, also, what do you mean girls getting free stuff? Your dad pays for everything for you, you dumb fuck.
There's a combination of things going on here.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I actually think some, not all, but some of the things you say objectively are not untrue. And what I mean by that is they're true, right? But also, is there a part of you that's saying them in the way that you're saying them because you're being a bit of a troll? Yeah.
Am I saying them?
The way that you're saying
I
them.
do say things for comedic effect at times.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't say things I don't believe. I change my opinion sometimes. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, but
He
what I
said
mean,
yes. He
No,
said
no,
no.
no, no.
he said yes as in just to
Yeah.
go along with it. But
Yeah.
what? No, it doesn't answer my question because I guess what I'm asking you is, are you saying things in a more incendiary, inflammatory way because you know that gets attention?
You mean like calling women whales?
Yes.
No, I just think it's funny.
Men can be whales too, by the
Yeah.
way.
I know.
Yeah. It means something different. But it's
But the men whale. No, okay, I need to say this.
All right.
The
Okay,
men
go.
whales accept their outcomes. They don't complain,
That's
and
true.
that's what I'm sick of.
Well, no,
the
that's
men,
not true.
the
What
male
about
whales.
incels?
The male. Oh, what percent? Come on. Like, what you're telling me? There's a whole body positive movement.
For
There's
men.
a whole.
No, fuck that.
You're telling me it's the same. Like, but this is the other thing we have in society. See, he did it. It's like whenever we talk about anything with the women, the automatic reaction is but men.
Yeah.
But men. Like, it's like a pattern that I notice. And
Because you try to shit on women for things that also involve men. That's why people say, but men, but men. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's skip to why she interviewed Nick Fuentes.
Listen, there's something else. I think it's been by, you know, we call the show trigonometry.
Yeah.
But even by our standards, this has been pretty triggering for a lot of people. However, there's something even more triggering that I do have to ask you about because in between the time that we booked you to come on the show and you actually coming on the show, you had a go.
Hunter, you just want people to be in a relationship where they're just constantly fighting over politics. Bruh, nah, you need some common ground if my wife and I disagree on everything. Unknown user, why are you not in my Discord yet? You've been commenting dumb shit this entire time. No, I never said that you should be in a relationship with somebody you're arguing with all the time. Me and my wife do have quite a lot of common ground, but sometimes we disagree as well and we'll argue about it. Are you okay? Are you a victim of incest? Either join the Discord or shut the fuck up.
Guy called Nick Fuentes.
Oh yeah, Nick.
You also know that I am.
And then you did an interview with this guy. Like, this is not a guy we would ever have on because he's a racist, Holocaust-denying piece of shit as far as I'm concerned. But you had him on, and then you took that interview down and apologized. So what happened with that whole thing?
Oh, I can't talk too much. There's like legal things going on.
There's legal things going on.
Yeah, there's not with Nick, but just but there's I have a video coming out about that whole thing. So
You do?
you guys have to wait for the video.
Well,
but I will say I did not find Nick to be racist. My staff actually did not find him to be racist.
Wait, he was talking to an Italian girl next to you and saying that she
My staff didn't find him to be racist. I had no idea actually that JustPearlyThings here has a vetting system to determine if somebody's racist or not. I actually didn't know that. That's really cool. Okay. I mean, we hung out with this guy and he didn't say the N-word, so like this is such brainworms, dude.
I did not find Nick to be racist. My staff actually did not find him to be racist.
Wait, he was talking to an Italian girl next to you and saying that she shouldn't have a black boyfriend or something along those lines.
He doesn't believe in. See, I don't really want to go into like the race mixing stuff too much.
No, but you just said you
He's not racist, guys, but he just doesn't believe in race mixing. Oh my god. Dude, how does one person shoot themselves in the foot this many times?
wasn't being racist and I watched him be racist on your show.
Well, I mean, to me, he says the same things that like there's a lot of people that think like that. When
But it doesn't make it less racist just because other people think it.
you could say that, but to me, it's like, how do I put it? His argument is more about culture. It's easier if you date someone in your culture.
So why is he conflating race with culture? That's not, I don't want to go as far as to say that's racist, but it's definitely a contributing factor to racism. Why do you think that culture and race are necessarily tied together? You realize that a lot of the times this is correlation, as in certain racial groups are born into certain areas where they have a certain culture. It's not that there's some culture intrinsically attached to their race. So you're just an idiot still.
You'd have to watch the full thing, but was like being a bit like combative to him. And to me, he was just like kidding. But yeah. You'd have to
Oh, he was just joking around, dude. Have you ever heard of the cookie joke? That was another really good one, man. Comedian, man. Always getting me chuckling.
I am a bit racist, even in that. And in fact, in your apology, you said that he said racist things.
well, there's a video coming out about all of that, but you'll see. It's coming out.
Okay. Well, the
Really?
reason
This is such a cop-out. Well, there's the video coming out. Shut the fuck up and answer.
I'm asking you is because it's kind of like a big deal that you had this guy on. Do you see what I'm saying? He is incredibly toxic.
I'm just telling you my personal experience with him. We filmed hours and hours and hours of footage with him.
Of course, yeah, your personal experience. There's always a personal experience, guys.
There's that one, to me, if you watch the full clip, it puts it in a little bit of context. Yeah. But he was really polite. He showed up on time. Like we just. Yeah.
He also
He showed up on time, guys. How can he be racist? I mean, he was polite. He was nice. He showed up on time. As you know, racists are notorious for being late. So the fact that he actually was here on time to my studio to be given a massive platform where he can spew a bunch of nonsense about Jews and culture and race and whatnot, he was here on time, guys. How can he be racist, huh?
He did a panel and he spoke about his opinions on race mixing, and a lot of people agreed with him.
Okay, but that doesn't change.
Cool. A lot of people agreed with him, guys. Okay. You know, at one point, almost everybody in America agreed that we should have slavery. Does that mean slavery is actually okay and it wasn't racist? Like, shut the fuck up.
Whether it's racist or not, right? But what I'm getting
Do you
to...
think it's racist to like, because I'm curious. Do you think it's racist like if I'm Irish and I say I want to date someone that's Irish? Do you think that's racist?
No, but if I say to you, you're Irish, therefore you shouldn't date a black man, that is racist, yeah.
If you're Irish because when he spoke about it on the show, it was more about culture than race.
But to me, that
And
doesn't
why did he
work.
tell somebody she shouldn't be dating a black guy?
There's an argument, Paul, so I'll give you an example. I'm half Latin American. I take after my dad's Irish side. If I date a Jamaican woman, Jamaica and Venezuela have a very similar culture. We're culturally very similar. We have the same food, the same religion, whatever else. So to me, it doesn't work. Do you see what I'm saying?
Wait, Venezuela and what?
Jamaica. So Venezuela's at the top of South America,
I
and
see.
Jamaica is all Trinidad, which is literally, you see it over the water.
Yeah, well, it's just, when he was talking about how he wanted to date an Italian woman, like versus, like he even said he wouldn't want to date a British girl, he'd want to date an Italian woman. So I was like, how is he a white supremacist?
No, he's allowed to date who he wants,
Yeah.
but him telling your Italian friend she shouldn't be dating a black man.
Wait,
that's
you don't need to be a white... You realize that if you date somebody who's a different race, doesn't actually mean that you're not a white supremacist or racist, right? This is one of the worst arguments to be made. Like, you know, slave owners used to rape their slaves. Slave owners, they would have sex with black people. How can they be racist, dude? I just can't stand it, man. I hate this Pearly person. Also, if he thinks that white people are superior and that black people are inferior due to genetic reasons, he's a white supremacist.
I have to remember what he said in the clip, but Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking you, because you do have controversial guests, as we do, and there's nothing wrong with talking to people who are controversial, but Nick Fuentes is a very different kettle of fish, as we say here, right?
Yeah, my opinion is that he was polite overall. He was a good guest.
He was also denying the Holocaust.
He was polite, guys. Like, what does this mean, Pearl? You know, racists can be polite sometimes. Do you think that racists are only ever, like, wearing literal Nazi outfits and shouting the N-word? You realize it's possible to be a polite person and also be a huge piece of shit scumbag who's racist? I mean, look at you. You're generally polite, but you're also a huge piece of shit.
From what I remember.
Look, I'm not with that. Keep me out of that one. I'm not with the race. Like, that's not my thing, but I just think people are allowed to have their opinions. So if he has crazy opinions, let him have his opinions. And I think
People are just allowed to have their opinions. Yeah, you're right. They are. But platforming those opinions and acting as though those opinions have a degree of credibility is not always a good idea, Pearl. You know, like, people are allowed to believe that black people are subhuman, okay? But if I get somebody on my podcast where I'm casually chatting with them about how black people are subhuman, then it's taken it to a new level.
he should be allowed to talk about it on a podcast.
But isn't it also the duty?
So he should be allowed to talk about it on podcasts. Okay, so do you believe then that, like, some of this can have influence on people? The thing is she's too stupid to know that he's even wrong. So she just backtracks to, well, anybody can think whatever they want, doo-doo. No one's saying otherwise. It's about platforming those bad ideas.
Of the person interviewing them to push back on those opinions when they come up and actually challenge them and investigate them and to
Based. True.
basically push back on it.
Yeah, I mean, we could do another show where we push back more. It's not the end all be all.
But surely that isn't that the risk? Isn't that?
I wanted to do like one with Dr. Umar, but he didn't want to come. Sad.
I don't know who that is.
Dr. Umar has like the same opinions as Nick. Like, he doesn't believe in race mixing too. He's just black.
Yeah.
That's like a common. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some people who believe that, sure.
Yeah.
But you know, when you were talking about the Holocaust with him, he was saying,
A black person also had a racist belief. Like, okay, how none of this is helping.
it's like slavery, it got embellished, and you were sort of going, I can see your point. And that's why I find it a bit confusing, because then in your apology you said, well, I wasn't really educated on these things.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're kind of taking that back
Again,
now.
there's a statement coming out on everything, so you guys just have to wait for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's weaseling bad right now.
I see a guest. By the way, if a guest says or does something controversial, you kind of want to ask and find out why they've done that. And we have to make, by the way, if this is coming across as confrontational, that's not the intention at all, because whenever I see a guest not be challenged enough on someone's show, I often think there, by the grace of God go I, because we've had people on the show who've said controversial things, and I've sort of missed the moment. And I kind of didn't challenge them enough, and I felt bad about it afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, because you're not a political person, you might not. There was a guy called Darren Grimes who had a guy called Dr. David Starkey on, and he said something about how, of course, slavery wasn't genocide, otherwise there wouldn't be so many damn blacks in the West, right? And that got picked up by all the media, and they all had to go at him. And I just saw a fairly young, inexperienced interviewer in Darren failed to challenge someone who he looked up to and respected on what was just a bad phrasing more than anything, right? So I totally understand why you may have missed something or not have jumped in on something that you maybe felt that you should have jumped in on. But the reason that Francis and I would never have Nick Fuentes on is precisely because he says all that shit all the time. So if you were to actually challenge him on some of his abhorrent views, you'd spend the entire 3 hours doing that.
Did you watch the full video?
I watched some of it, not the full video. Yeah.
Okay. I did challenge him at points of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about
Yeah,
it.
tell us.
I mean, we had a whole panel on race mixing.
Yeah.
And like we had, like, that was why he came out. Like, the political stuff was just because he was there. Like, so I did a one-on-one as like the reason I brought him on was I saw him on No Jumper, like talking about race mixing. And I've heard that point of view, but it's usually like not, like, people look different that have that point of view usually. So like I've heard it, but I've just never heard it like that, I guess. So we just brought him on a panel just like about race mixing, and they did a whole panel on it.
But then he was denying the Holocaust.
You know, that was crazy. Yeah, that was.
But that's what he does. That's why I'm asking you.
Well,
Why-
but we brought him on to talk about race mixing. That's what we brought him on, because it's a relationship show, and
Yeah.
we just interviewed him because he was there.
But there will be people, Pearl, who will
We
say,
didn't mean for him to start talking about how the Holocaust was fake, okay? That was uncalled for. My God.
well, if you're going to bring that person on, and look, again, this isn't to, misrepresent or do any of those types of things. The reason we have this show is so we can talk and have honest conversations, because part of this is for me to clarify my thinking about different issues. That's why we do the show. But part of it is also when you bring someone on, you can't also ignore that element of it. Do you see what I mean?
I don't know what you mean by ignore.
No, because if you're not addressing the fact that he's a Holocaust denier, then you're
Well, I mean,
ignoring
I
that. Do
don't
you see what I mean?
I mean, I don't agree that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, no,
That's reassuring. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening to him.
Yeah.
And I think you're allowed to listen to people that you might not agree with.
I love it. I love it, dude. We can listen to people we don't agree with, you know? No one's saying you can't. It's about platforming those people.
I mean, I was just listening to him.
Yeah.
And I think you're allowed to listen to people that you might not agree with. And I think as women, we're more agreeable than men. So a lot of times you might take it as me agreeing, but no, I didn't.
But you did.
Did she actually just make this fucking argument? Women are just more agreeable, so if it didn't seem as though I was pushing back, it's because of my nature. My womanly nature caused me to not give adequate pushback to the Holocaust denier. Is that actually her excuse? Her excuse is that the fucking womanly nature that she possesses kept her from adequately pushing back. Because she just had to agree because women are all more agreeable, you know? Maybe then you should just be really agreeable and agree to your own principles and shut the fuck up and get back to the kitchen, unironically.
Say so it's kind of like slavery, it's been embellished.
I was talking about how people use atrocities to control people, and I was quoting Thomas Sowell, who's a black author. Who said
I'm
the same
a big
thing.
fan of Thomas Sowell.
Yeah, so I was quoting Thomas Sowell and speaking about his ideas if people watch the full interview.
Yeah.
And I said that in the interview.
Yeah. Well,
And I was talking about how people use an atrocity to control people.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, but you don't think that's what happened with the Holocaust?
It sounded like it based on what he was saying, but
Well, he's a well-known Holocaust denier. Of course it would sound like that.
That's where I was. If you
So-
let
sorry,
me,
sorry,
if you let me
forgive me.
finish. At the time, that's what I was talking about. It sounded like some of Thomas Sowell's ideas. But do I think that the Holocaust didn't happen? No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So she's just more agreeable for the Nazi because of her womanly nature. And, well, he did make a pretty compelling argument about how the Holocaust was fake, but, like, okay, cool. And then I think she thinks that she's giving herself a bit of defense here by bringing up the fact that she was quoting, like, a black guy, but it does not matter.
I guess, what do you think your responsibility is when you bring on controversial guests onto the show? Do you have any responsibility? What do you believe?
For the guests?
Oh, no, not for the guests. For the content that you put out, Pearl.
Yeah, I'm responsible for all the content I put out.
You're responsible for all the content that you put out. And do you now look at that and think that you made a mistake, you made an error?
I don't regret having someone controversial on. If I had to do it again, I would have maybe had someone on the opposite end of the argument that could push back. But how I probably would have did it if I had to do it again, one full interview with both of them, let them talk, let them say what they're going to say, and then bring them together.
So who would you have on the other end? So you'd have
Dr. Umar!
but that's not, but those are two people who share the same viewpoint. Just one happens to be white, one happens to be black. That's not, that's playing, do you see that's kind of identity
Well,
politics?
yeah, but then we did a whole
Yes.
panel with people that disagreed with him. So we did do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm a bit confused about is you did a whole apology, but
Okay,
it
can
sounds
you
like
guys
you're
stop
not.
asking me about this? Like,
Yeah.
I
It
said
kinda matters.
I have a statement coming out
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll leave it to your statement.
Yeah.
Listen, we always wrap up the show with the same question we ask.
Damn, Pearl, why are you... Pearl, you're not being very agreeable right now. What happened? Your womanly nature holds all the responsibility for you just kind of passively allowing the Holocaust denier to ramble on and sometimes seem a little bit more agreeable because of your womanness, the estrogen, you know, the I agree with you hormone. Why are you not being agreeable here? What's going on? Is this just like you can selectively invoke your biology when it's convenient for you? Is that it?
Call, I guess, which is what's the one thing you think we're not talking about that we really should be?
men's issues. Yeah, that's my, yeah.
Do you want to elaborate or happy to leave it there?
No, I would just say like men, I just think men not getting custody of their kids. I think that is an issue that nobody talks about.
Okay, sweet. Well, Pearl, thank you very much. Where can people find you online?
JustPearlyThings, so you can look up.
Okay, well, there you guys have it. Her womanly nature is responsible for her seeming to agree with Nick Fuentes and his insane ideas. He can't be racist because he showed up on time and was nice. And women shouldn't vote for some reason. Well, there you guys have it. That is the female Andrew Tate, who actually manages to make Andrew Tate not only seem far more smart, but also far more entertaining. Like, Pearl is so boring. She just sits there and she's like, you know, it's just like my fucking uterus kind of just like made me deny the Holocaust. You know, it's just, you can't really fault me, ooh. But like, at least fucking Tate is entertaining to watch. You just spew bullshit in the most boring, bland white girl way possible. Okay, well, either way, Pearl, I wish that you would, you're not being very submissive here. You were not being very agreeable. Very, very unfortunate to see you just go completely against your womanly nature. But alas, it is what it is, I suppose.